At 92, Shirley Jones is finally revealing the truth she was never meant to say out loud. Hollywood painted her marriage to Jack Cassidy as a perfect story, glowing on the outside. But behind that light was a private world of fear, silence, and wounds she carried alone. And what she is about to confess now will shatter everything people thought they knew about their golden union. Shirley Jones always appeared as one of Hollywood's most perfect figures. Her soft smile, gentle eyes, and sweet voice made America believe her life was filled only with light. The press called her the Golden Girl, the woman who carried kindness onto every stage and kept it even after the lights faded. Audiences saw a calm, graceful woman with no scandals, no chaos, someone who always stood steady in a stormy place. But to maintain that image, Shirley had to learn how to hide every crack. She stood in front of cameras every day as if life was always peaceful. No one knew about the mornings. She sat still for hours just to catch her breath after long, stressful nights. Hollywood wanted beauty, not the sadness behind it. Jack Cassidy entered Shirley's life like the next chapter of a fairy tale. Handsome, talented, confident, and charming, in the way only a Broadway man could be. When he walked into a room, every head turned. People thought he was the perfect man to stand beside Shirley. Together, they looked like the couple Hollywood dreamed of, young, gifted, and naturally matched as if they were meant for each other. They married and instantly became the model family. Every newspaper printed their photos with glowing praise. At big parties, they always appeared arm in arm. Jack stood tall and smiling, while Shirley held his arm like a leading lady stepped straight out of a romantic film. They had 3 sons, and the image of their 4-person family became a symbol of celebrity happiness. Hollywood loves beautiful images, and the Cassidy-Jones family was the most beautiful one of its time. Houses decorated like postcards, sunlit family outings, warm hugs on red carpets. Everything made people believe they were luckier than the rest of the world. But behind it all was another truth. Shirley constantly tried to keep a smile for Jack. She was always the soft one, the one who wanted peace. She carried the pressure of work, family, and the spotlight. But every night she walked onto the stage as if nothing was wrong. That was the version of a successful woman Hollywood wanted to see. And Jack? He carried an ambition larger than most people realized. The spotlight revived him, but it also consumed him piece by piece. He wanted to rise higher. He wanted audiences to remember him as a true star. Shirley shone quickly and brightly, and sometimes that made Jack feel like he was living in her shadow. The public never knew that. They only saw a confident man smiling beside his famous wife. But those close to them knew Jack was someone who worried easily, got discouraged easily, and was far more vulnerable than people assumed. Shirley tried her best to cover every wave of tension at home. She taught the boys how to stay out of the way when Jack was in a bad mood. She cleaned up the sudden storms he brought with him. She kept everything quiet because she believed she had to protect their image. Hollywood had taught her that women were supposed to be the anchor, the steady force, the one who preserved perfection before they talked about pain. Every photo in the media was a carefully chosen moment. Every interview was soft and controlled. No one knew that during long nights, Shirley sat alone in the living room staring at the ceiling, wondering where everything was heading. No one knew Jack had days when he disappeared, leaving Shirley with a dozen questions she never dared to voice. Hollywood loves illusions, and this family became one of its prettiest illusions. They stood together, laughed together, sang together, but it was only a mask held tight to protect what they believed mattered most, their fame. Shirley knew the perfect image was only the surface, but she kept it because she hoped things would get better. She believed silence could save what was slowly breaking. But silence never saves anyone. It only makes the wounds deeper. And slowly, the things she tried to hide began to surface. Not because she wanted them to, but because the truth never stays asleep for too long. Shirley Jones always appeared as the perfect symbol of Hollywood. Her soft smile, calm eyes, and warm voice made America believe her life was built on light. The press called her the Golden Girl, the woman who carried kindness into every room she entered. To the audience, she looked gentle, steady, and untouched by the chaos around her. But to protect that image, Shirley learned how to hide every crack. She stood in front of cameras as if nothing ever went wrong. No one knew about the mornings she spent sitting alone, trying to breathe after long nights filled with tension. Hollywood loves beauty, not the pain behind it. And so she kept moving, kept smiling, kept pretending everything was fine. Jack Cassidy entered her life like the next chapter of a romantic film. Handsome, talented, charming, and confident in the way Broadway stars often are. When he walked into a room, people turned. Everyone thought he was the perfect man to stand beside her. Together, they looked like Hollywood's dream couple, young, gifted, and meant for each other. When they married, the public fell in love with their story. Photos of them appeared everywhere. They attended parties, premieres, and events side by side. Jack always stood tall and charismatic. Shirley leaned on his arm, glowing like a classic movie star. They had 3 sons, and the picture of a 4-person family became a symbol of celebrity happiness. Hollywood loves beautiful images, and the Cassidy Jones family was one of its brightest. Their home looked like a postcard. Their outdoor photos were filled with warm sunlight. Their hugs on red carpets made people believe their life was pure, stable, and full of joy. But behind all of it was a different reality. Shirley carried more weight than anyone could see. She kept the house steady. She kept the schedule running. She kept the peace. She handled her career and her home like someone who didn't know how to stop. She walked on stage every night as if the world was always calm. That was the version Hollywood wanted to see. Jack had a different battle. His ambition was sharp. His desire for recognition burned constantly. The spotlight gave him life, but it also consumed him. He wanted more roles, more applause, more control. Shirley's success came fast and strong, and deep down it made him feel outshined. People never saw that. They only saw a confident man standing next to a beloved star. But those close to them understood Jack better. He was sensitive. He was restless. He was harder on himself than the world ever was. And when he struggled, the whole house felt it. Shirley did what she always did. She softened every edge. She guided the children through Jack's moods. She learned how to read the silence in the living room. She cleaned up emotional messes before they grew. She protected Jack as much as she protected the image they shared. That was what Hollywood taught women then. Hold the family together quietly. Every photo published was a carefully chosen moment. Every interview was a gentle tone. None of it revealed the nights Shirley spent awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how long she could keep everything from falling apart. None of it showed the days Jack disappeared without a trace, leaving Shirley with questions she never dared to ask. Hollywood loves illusions, and this family became one of its finest. They stood close, smiled often, sang together, and looked like a perfect unit. But it was a mask, a strong one, a polished one, a mask designed to protect their careers, their reputation, and their pride. Shirley knew the perfection wasn't real. She felt the shift in Jack's energy. She felt the distance growing. She felt the pressure that never left her shoulders. But she held on because she believed silence could save them. She believed loyalty meant staying even when the ground shook. But silence doesn't save anyone. Silence only makes the wounds deeper. And the truth she tried to hide for years slowly began to surface, not because she wanted it to, but because the truth never stays buried forever. And her truth was ready to be heard. The truth inside Shirley Jones' marriage did not fall apart in one moment. It broke slowly, quietly, in the small spaces no one sees, in the late nights when the house felt too big, in the mornings when the silence lingered a little too long. This was the part of her life Hollywood never noticed, or maybe never wanted to look at. Shirley was the calm one, the steady one, the person who tried to keep life warm even when things felt cold. She grew up believing that love meant patience. So she carried a lot on her shoulders. She carried the home, she carried the children, and eventually she carried a marriage that felt heavier each year. Jack Cassidy had a different battle. He lived in a world of noise, applause, pressure, and a constant chase for the next big role. He wanted to be remembered. He wanted to be great, but that desire made him restless. And when he came home, the restlessness did not stay outside. It followed him. It filled the rooms. It changed the air. People saw Jack as confident, bold, sharp, but the truth was softer. He was sensitive. He was hard on himself. He felt the weight of expectations, and when he hurt, he sometimes pushed the world away. Even the people who loved him most. Shirley noticed the small changes first. The nights Jack stayed out longer than usual. The days he woke up quiet. The rehearsals that drained him. The way his eyes looked tired even when he smiled for the cameras. She knew something was wrong, but she kept hoping it would pass. People in Hollywood learned early. Never show a crack. Never let the illusion slip. Their children felt the shifts too. Homes have a language. They speak through footsteps, doors, and the tone of a voice. The boys learned when to stay close and when to step back. They loved their father, but they felt the tension even when no one talked about it. Shirley tried to create stability. She cooked meals. She kept routines. She protected the boys from the storms that came and went. She cleaned up arguments before they turned into bigger things. She held the house together with quiet strength. But strength has limits, and silence has a cost. There were nights when Jack's frustration rose. He loved his work, but it consumed him. He wanted perfection, even when perfection was impossible. And when he couldn't reach it, he turned inward. Shirley watched him struggle. She tried to help. But some battles are fought inside a person's mind, and no one else can step in. Hollywood made everything harder. Fame brings a spotlight, but it also brings shadows. People judge. People compare. People expect you to stay golden. Jack felt that weight every day, and Shirley carried it with him even when he didn't ask her to. One of the hidden truths was this. They were two good people caught in a difficult life. They loved each other, but love wasn't enough to shield them from pressure, ambition, fear, or exhaustion. They were human, and humans break sometimes. Shirley kept journals. She wrote when she felt overwhelmed. Small lines, simple thoughts, little notes that helped her breathe. She never planned to share them. They were just places to put the pain she didn't want to say out loud. Some entries were hopeful. Others were quiet and heavy. I wish he could see himself the way I see him. I miss the days when he laughed more. I want to help him, but I don't know how. None of these words attacked Jack. None blamed him. They showed a woman trying to carry love through a storm. Friends close to the family noticed the tension. They admired how hard Shirley tried. They understood Jack's struggles, and they hoped the two would find a path back to each other. But the gap grew wider, not because of one event, but because of many small moments that piled up over the years. Jack's career had highs and lows. The highs felt like sunlight. The lows felt like night that lasted too long. In those nights, Shirley was the anchor, the home, the steady ground. But even anchors get tired, and sometimes she felt invisible, not unloved, but unseen. There was a moment Shirley never talked about for years, a quiet night in their living room. The kids were asleep. The house was still. Jack sat on the couch, staring at nothing. She sat beside him, close, but not touching. She asked if he was all right. He nodded, but his eyes said he wasn't. In that silence, Shirley understood something painful. She realized she could love him deeply and still not reach the part of him that hurt the most. That truth stayed in her heart for decades. The world praised them as a perfect couple, but at home, They struggled to understand each other. They lived in the same house but carried different weights. Shirley wanted peace. Jack wanted meaning. Those two desires sometimes moved in opposite directions, but even in the darkest moments, there were tender ones. They talked late at night. They shared memories of their early years. They held each other when life felt too heavy. They tried. Over and over, they tried. And yet, trying did not fix everything. As years passed, the cracks grew wider. Their love didn't disappear, but it changed shape. It became something quieter, something mixed with fatigue and acceptance. They were partners, but not always close. They were connected, but not always aligned. One of the hardest truths came from one of their sons. He once said, "Dad loved us. He just didn't always know how to show it." Shirley carried that sentence for years. It explained so much. It explained Jack. It explained their home. It explained the pain and the tenderness all at once. Another truth was this: Shirley protected Jack's image because she cared. She did not want the world to judge him. She knew his flaws, but she also knew his heart. She understood his dreams. She respected his talent, and she believed in the man he could be, even when he didn't believe it himself. Jack had bright days too. Days of laughter, days when he sang in the kitchen, days when he kissed Shirley's forehead without saying a word, days when the boys climbed all over him and he let out the biggest laugh in the room. Those moments stayed with Shirley. Those were the moments that kept her going. But life does not stay gentle forever. There came a time when the marriage could no longer hold the weight of all the silent battles. They separated, quietly, privately, without anger in public. Shirley made the decision because she had to protect herself and the children. Jack understood, even if it hurt. Even after they parted, she cared for him. She wanted him to find peace. He wanted her to be happy. Some loves don't end, they just change form. The last hidden truth Shirley carried was the hardest one. She never stopped caring about Jack Cassidy. Not even after everything. Not even after the marriage ended. Not even after the world moved on. And that truth shaped the rest of her life. The truth Shirley Jones held for decades did not come from anger. It came from a moment she never forgot. A moment that changed the way she saw her marriage forever. A moment she kept silent because she knew the world would never understand. It happened one night when everything looked calm, but nothing felt right. It was late. The house was quiet. The children were asleep. Shirley walked down the hallway and found Jack alone in the living room. The light from a single lamp fell across his face. He looked lost. Not dramatic. Not broken. Just lost in a quiet way that scared her more than any argument ever did. She asked him if something was wrong. He didn't answer right away. He kept staring at the floor. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, barely above a whisper. He said he felt like he was disappearing. He felt like the world was moving faster than he could keep up with. He felt like he was standing in the center of a storm that never ended. And then he said, the sentence Shirley never repeated until now, "I don't know who I am when the applause stops." Those words cut through her. They explained everything. The silence, the distance, the nights he stayed out, the pressure he carried, the sudden shifts in mood, the weight he never learned to share. She realized Jack was not fighting her. He was fighting himself. And it was a fight he was losing. Shirley sat beside him. She wanted to help. She wanted to fix it. But in that moment, she understood something she never admitted publicly. She understood that love alone cannot save someone who feels like they're fading. She understood that she could hold him, support him, and stand by him, but she could not give him the sense of self he felt slipping away. This was the truth she hid, not the gossip, not the rumors, not the problems the tabloids guessed. The real revelation was this: Jack Cassidy struggled with a darkness no one talked about, and Shirley carried the knowledge of it for years. She didn't tell Hollywood because she wanted to protect him. She didn't tell the press because she knew the industry would twist it into something cruel. She didn't tell her friends because she didn't want pity. She held it inside, quietly, the way she held every other part of their life together. But that night was not the last time Jack exposed his pain. There was another moment, months later, that sealed everything for Shirley. It was during a small argument, nothing explosive, nothing dramatic, just two tired people failing to reach each other again. Jack said something that broke her. He said, "You shine without trying. I have to bleed for every piece of light I get." He wasn't accusing her. He wasn't angry. He was telling a truth he didn't know how to live with. And Shirley realized the gap between them was no longer something they could patch. They were moving in different directions. She toward stability. He toward a place she could not follow. Hollywood never saw this. The world saw a couple with success, children, and a life people envied. But Shirley saw the truth. She saw a man who was brilliant but fragile. She saw a marriage that held beauty and pain in equal measure. She saw a partner she loved deeply but could no longer save. The real revelation came after they separated. It was not a fight. It was not anger. It was a quiet conversation on the phone. Jack called her late one night. His voice was soft, calm, almost peaceful. He told her she had made the right choice. He told her he understood. He told her he hoped she found happiness, even if it wasn't with him. And then he said the one sentence she held on to for the rest of her life. "You were the only calm place I ever had." Shirley never repeated that sentence until now, because it was private, because it was his truth, and because it hurt in a way she didn't know how to explain. She knew the marriage was over. She knew the bond had changed. But hearing that broke something inside her. It made her realize he had loved her more deeply than he ever showed. The final revelation came after Jack's death. Shirley received a small box from someone close to him. Inside was a photo, a simple black and white portrait of the two of them from their early years. On the back, in Jack's handwriting, were 5 words. "She saved me for years." Shirley held that photo for a long time. She cried, not because she regretted leaving, but because she finally understood the weight both of them had carried. She realized the truth she had never said out loud. Jack's life was bright, but his light was fragile, and she had spent years trying to keep it from going out. This was the revelation Shirley never shared with the world. She didn't hide it out of shame. She hid it because she wanted to honor him. She hid it because she wanted people to remember his talent, his charm, his brilliance, not the battles he fought in private. For decades, people asked why she stayed as long as she did, why she protected him, why she never spoke badly of him. The revelation explains everything. She saw his pain long before anyone else did, and she understood it in a way no one else ever could. The truth is not messy. It is not cruel. It is not scandalous. It is heartbreaking in a quiet, human way. Shirley learned to let go, but she never erased him from her heart. She carried his memory gently. She raised their children with love. She spoke kindly when people asked about him, and she never once exposed the parts of him that were too fragile to share. At 92, when she finally decided to speak, she didn't reveal a scandal. She revealed a truth shaped by compassion. Jack Cassidy was brilliant. Jack Cassidy was gifted. Jack Cassidy was loved, but he was also a man who struggled to hold on to himself. And Shirley Jones lived for decades, carrying the weight of loving someone she could not save. It was a revelation that changed her life, and now it changes how the world understands their story. The truth, Shirley Jones finally shared at 92, was not meant to expose anyone. It was meant to bring peace to a story that lived too long in silence. Her marriage to Jack Cassidy was filled with light and shadows, and she carried both with the same weight. She understood that love can be warm and painful at the same time. She learned that even the strongest people can break in quiet ways. After Jack passed, Shirley spent years thinking about what their life had meant. She looked at old photos. She remembered small moments. She replayed memories that once hurt but later helped her understand the full picture. She realized her marriage was not a failure. It was a journey, a complicated one, a human one, a real one. Shirley accepted that she did what she could. She tried to support Jack. She tried to protect her children. She tried to hold the family together. And in many ways, she succeeded. The boys grew up with love, with stability, with her strength. And they learned how to see their father with compassion instead of judgment. The world often talks about Hollywood marriages in simple terms: success or failure, perfect or broken. But life does not work like that. Shirley wanted people to see that truth. She wanted them to know that some relationships are made of both beauty and struggle, and both parts matter. When Shirley speaks now, her voice is calm, not bitter, not heavy, just honest. She says, Jack was talented. He was magnetic. He was full of energy and fear at the same time. She loved him for who he was, not for the image he tried to protect. And she knows he loved her too, even when he couldn't show it clearly. Her message is simple. Love is not about fixing someone. Love is about seeing them, all of them, even the parts that hurt. Shirley wants people to understand that silence is not strength. Silence is survival. But truth is healing. It took her decades to say out loud what she carried in her heart, and speaking it did not erase the pain. It softened it. It gave it shape. It let her breathe again. The moral of Shirley's story is not about mistakes. It is about compassion. It is about forgiving someone who struggled more than they could explain. It is about forgiving yourself for not being able to save them. At 92, Shirley finally let the world see the whole picture. Not the glamorous one, not the flawless one, the real one. The one built from tenderness, conflict, fear, loyalty, distance, and love. Shirley Jones survived Hollywood because she learned one truth many people never learn. You cannot carry someone else's darkness forever, but you can honor the light they left behind. The ending of her story is quiet, simple, honest. She looks back at her life with gratitude, not regret. She remembers Jack with warmth, not pain. She speaks the truth, not to reopen old wounds, but to close them with dignity. And she leaves us with one final thought. Some love stories are not meant to be perfect. They are meant to be understood.